Have you ever wanted to travel to another country by yourself? I know it can be daunting to think about traveling somewhere solo. Okay, I'll be more honest with you. It can be downright scary to think about solo travel. Am I right? If the thought of traveling solo terrifies you, don't worry, you're definitely not alone. I am right there with you. I know you may be thinking, but she's traveled by herself, so it's easy for her to say that. Yes and no. I've told you about some of my solo trips and the things that have happened along the way. However, what you may not know is that I still get scared before every solo trip. But you know what's interesting about traveling by yourself? There's something that switches on when you trek off into the unknown solo. Hello, and welcome to the Anxious Adventure podcast. I'm Katie Schlegel, your host. I've traveled to a lot of places around this beautiful planet, seen so many jaw-dropping sights, and have met a lot of amazing people along the way. Now, if you don't know this yet, I'll just get it out of the way right now. I'm an anxious adventurer, hence the name of this podcast. If you're wondering what an anxious adventurer even means, well, to put it quite simply, it means that when I travel, I get anxious and stressed, maybe a little bit easier or more often than the average person. In the trailer for this podcast, I state one of my favorite lines from Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. It says, "It's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to." My hope for you, my dear anxious adventurer, is that you are inspired by today's episode so that you too will be swept off into the world that traveling, maybe even solo traveling, can open up for you. You just have to step out your door. And don't you worry, I am right here beside you. Now, as scary as traveling by yourself can be, it has many benefits too. I encourage you to be open to the possibilities, even if it's a teeny tiny bit, and allow yourself to dream. Traveling alone can be one of the most enriching and memorable experiences of your life. You grow in ways you didn't even know you could. It allows you to open yourself up to learning about different cultures, as well as showing you how amazingly friendly this world is by meeting new people in different places all over this great planet. It gives you the freedom to explore the world on your own terms, so you are able to grow and have all those moments of self-discovery. It also forces you to push yourself beyond your current reality and comfort zone, teaching you how to navigate new cities, towns, and even yourself. You also have complete control over what you want to do and where you want to go. Want to meander through the side streets and go window shopping? Go for it. Want to be lazy and sit at a coffee shop or a cafe and watch the day go by? You can. And the best part is, you only have to check in with yourself to see if it is what you want to experience and do. Okay, I hope that at least gives you a little bit of an excitement or gets you excited for this next part. Are you ready to dive into the top 10 safest countries for solo travelers? I know I am. So grab your passports because we are about to embark on a major quest together. One that will literally take us all around the world. Welcome to your very first solo trip. I know it's not really a trip, but even if the information in this episode gets you to start thinking about taking your first trip by yourself, that's good enough for me. As I've mentioned in my last episode, what sparked the idea for doing this episode was a conversation with one of my friends. We were talking about traveling by ourselves and how it can kind of be scary nowadays. After that conversation, I was curious to see if there was any info out there about places one could travel to and feel safe doing so by yourself. What I found was a recent study that came out this year in 2023 by the company Bounce. First, I was like, who is this bounce company and why is this information from them even valid? Well, to answer your first question, Bounce allows you to store your luggage in different cities around the world. An example of this would be if you have a long layover and you're in the city and want to explore, or maybe you arrived too early to check in to your Airbnb. That's when Bounce comes in. They have facilities all over the world that will allow you to store your luggage in a safe place so you can be hands-free to start exploring. So I can see how they have come by this information because they run a business storing people's luggage and the assurance to keep it safe and protected. I have never used this company, and this is not an endorsement by me, but more so just knowledge for you to stick a pin in it, if you will, for when you find yourself in need of a service like the one Bounce offers. I know I would have loved to have something like this available to me when I traveled by myself. There were times when I lugged my luggage around with me all over the city, which was always so annoying, not to mention the fact that you feel like you have to be extra aware of your surroundings, as well as your bags, and the people around you. It can be exhausting, which is the opposite of how you want to feel when you start exploring a new city. Okay, enough about that and the background of this article. I want to dive into this top 10 list of safest countries to travel solo. This next part was taken from 2 different articles I found while doing my research. I've linked to these in the show notes. So, without further ado, here's your top 10 countries where you can feel safe traveling by yourself. Number 10, the Netherlands. The Netherlands came into the 10th position for the world's safest countries for solo travelers, thanks to its low crime rate, welcoming locals, and the fact that it's easy to navigate. Its top tourist destinations, like Amsterdam, are incredibly friendly and safe for solo travelers. And if you didn't know this, Amsterdam has always been ranked among the safest cities in the world for solo female travelers. Most of the city's streets are well lit, and even female solo tourists can walk freely. And a side note, the police are also reliable and will always be there when needed. If you're wondering about the safety index score, on a scale of 0 to 100, 0 being not safe at all, and 100 being the safest place ever, it has the safety score of 72.7. Number 9 is Austria. Austria is home to some of the most spectacular mountains, charming small towns, gorgeous cities, and breathtaking sights. This country guarantees stress-free and unforgettable adventures due to the fact that it is incredibly safe and easy to navigate. It also has a lot to offer tourists, including a unique culture, an incredible culinary scene, and breathtaking natural scenery. Vienna, its capital and largest city, is considered one of the safest cities for travelers in Europe and has plenty of fun things to offer. It also has a safety index score of 72.7. Coming in at number 8 is Finland. Finland is famous for being the happiest country and one of the best destinations for seeing the northern lights in the world. Solo travelers can freely enjoy their adventures without worrying in Finland. This country has a range of fun experiences and activities for people traveling by themselves. From its bustling capital of Helsinki to gorgeous, quiet landscapes, Finland has something for everyone. Its safety index score is 73.2. Number 7, Denmark. Denmark boasts a tranquil and peaceful atmosphere that will make tourists feel safe the moment they arrive at the airport. When booking accommodation, it's recommended to book a hostel, as one will get a chance to meet other adventurers. There are plenty of hostels in Copenhagen for tourists solo tripping in the city. For the most part, Denmark is a small, flat country that has an amazing public transportation system, making it super easy to explore for solo visitors. It also ranked at 73.4 on the safety index. Coming in at number 6 is South Korea. Not many travelers choose to go on a solo trip to South Korea, especially since it's an off-the-beaten-track type of place. However, choosing to go on a solo adventure in South Korea can be super rewarding because the country is beautiful and rich in culture. South Korea is very safe, and that's not just based on crime rates. The country has an incredible sense of community where the locals respect people and their belongings. You won't hear many cases of pickpocketing here. It comes in at 74.5 on the safety index. Number 5, Iceland. Want to travel solo and discover something new in different parts of the world? A not-to-be-missed destination is Iceland. Iceland is among one of the top places for solo travelers as it is home to friendly people, spectacular nature, and plenty of opportunities for fun solo adventures. Iceland also ranks as the country with the most attractions per 100,000 people. So you will never be bored traveling solo in this country. Its safety index is 75.1. Number 4 on the list is Croatia. Croatia's low crime rate and the fact that terrorism is quite rare makes it one of the safest countries for solo visitors. Located in Central Europe, Croatia is famous for its beautiful natural wonders, delicious cuisines, a wine culture to die for, and friendly locals. The country's coastline is arguably the most spectacular in the Balkan Peninsula, and the beaches offer unique experiences that travelers won't find in the big cities and towns. Almost everywhere is safe, and solo travelers will definitely enjoy visiting this country. However, one should be careful with their belongings. Petty theft can occur in the most popular tourist areas, so just be aware of that. Croatia came in at 75.4 on the safety index scale. Number 3, Slovenia. Slovenia came in third place for the safest countries for solo travelers, thanks to its low crime rate and friendly locals who are always warm and welcoming to new faces. Being one of the smaller nations in the world, Slovenia is easy to navigate and explore. Its transportation system is also among one of the most efficient in Central Europe, which makes moving around easy and fun. Ranking in at 75.8 on the safety scale index. Number 2 on the list, Switzerland. If you're looking for an incredible solo travel destination, look no further than Switzerland. From vibrant cities to gorgeous mountain towns to some of the most stunning natural wonders, Switzerland has a lot in store for the independent traveler. The country comes with an incredible blend of convenience, spectacular scenery, and safety, which means that visitors don't need to go with someone to enjoy a perfect Swiss adventure. If you're wondering what it ranked on the safety index scale, it came in at a 76.4. All right, are you ready for the number 1 safest country for solo travelers? You may remember this from my previous episode. Coming in at number 1 is Japan. Japan came in at 76.9 on the safety index scale thanks to its incredibly low crime rates. Travelers can be assured of safety in large cities such as Tokyo and Osaka. The Japan National Tourism Organization even runs a 24-hour English-speaking helpline that solo tourists can rely on to get access to support and information for solo traveling in the country. Being alone is something that is celebrated and appreciated in Japan. In fact, it's such a normal thing that it's incorporated into the Japanese lifestyle. Often in other countries, you can feel really out of place being a solo traveler, but rest assured, Japan is not one of those countries. So there you have it, your top 10 list of places you can start to look into if you are wanting to dip your toes into some solo traveling. Now, I've also linked to the study by Bounce in the show notes, and if you go to the article, you'll see Croatia as being number 1. This study from Bounce also included other variables that they took into account, such as affordability. I solely focused on the safety factor in this episode, but I do encourage you to check out the study from Bounce and the other articles that I found. They have some amazing information in them. In the intro, I mentioned that something switches on when you step out into the unknown and travel by yourself. Want to know what that is? It's your courage. With each solo trip you take, it's like you shed a piece of you that was scared and ultimately find that your courage has always been there within you, just waiting to come out. Just like the cowardly lion finds his courage on his adventure in The Wizard of Oz, you too will find yours. And remember, you have everything you need within you to be able to travel by yourself, including your courage. It's right there, bubbling up to the surface, ready to roar. Before I conclude this episode, I wanted to share a thought that came to me while I was mulling over all the information I researched for this episode, and I wanted to throw it out there to you to see what you think. Here's a bit of the backstory. Recently, I was watching the 4th season of Netflix Stranger Things, and in one of the first episodes, it shows Joyce Byer, Will Byer's mom, on the phone selling encyclopedias for her new job. Do you remember encyclopedias? Man, those were the real deal back in the day. I remember my parents having a whole set from A to Z. I would spend hours looking things up. Okay, anyways, back to Stranger Things. Now, stay with me on this. I'm getting to my point here in a second. In this episode, Joyce is trying to sell a whole set of encyclopedias to a woman on the phone. And she says, "Let me ask you something. Have you ever wished to have the answer to any question right at your fingertips? Just imagine, you never have to go to the library again. Think of the money you'll save on gas alone." The only thing about those encyclopedia sets were they constantly needed to be updated because information changed from year to year, which for a person who wanted to get current information on any given subject, it was annoying. Okay, here's where this comes full circle. As you know, I love country and city guidebooks. They are like my little secret indulgence, and sometimes I find myself at the bookstore perusing the travel section for a good guidebook. While I love reading all about the country or city I'm about to travel to, I also know that information changes so quickly nowadays. So this is my idea. I want to start creating mini audio guides for different countries and cities around the world. My thought is it would be country or city guides for anxious adventurers. Imagine for a moment being able to come to this podcast knowing you're about to go to, say, Japan. You have your guidebook, sure, but wouldn't it be nice to also hear ideas of where to go and what to do from other anxious adventurers out there that know how it is to be, well, an anxious traveler? Things like what to do in the city or places to avoid, experiences that will help you relax, so on and so forth. The thing is, I can't do this by myself because in the grand scheme of traveling, I haven't been to many places, so this is where I need your help. I thought we could first start with your towns and cities. The idea here is to get a local's perspective. I would love for you, my listeners, to start writing in and telling me about your country, city, or town. You can tell us why we should come visit, what we should do when we're there, and maybe something that not everyone would know about that place. You can write as much or as little as you want. Why I think this would be so great is that it could be a place that any one of you can come to seek out information from the actual people who live there. This may take a while to actualize, I realize that, but I want you to know I'm in this podcasting gig for the long haul, so I'm ready for this to be a work in progress, so to speak. If you're interested in this at all, you can email me about your country, city, or town at anxiousadventurersclub@gmail.com. Put in the subject line, Adventure Guide. Before I bring this thought to a close, I want you to imagine how big of an impact your travel stories or your guide information for your country, city, or town can have on people. What you say could help so many travelers. After all, I've always wanted this podcast to be a co-creation between you and me. So just think about it. You know me, I'll bring it up again. Speaking of the impact on the world, I want to share some really exciting news with you. I just found out that The Anxious Adventurer is officially in the top 10% of podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. This is a huge accomplishment, and there's no way, no how, my friends, that I could have done this without you. You are making this all possible by showing up and listening each time another episode drops. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for following. Thank you for sharing this podcast with your friends. It really means so much to me. I also want to shout out Podfox Media and Sarah, Eric, and Amanda, who work on producing, editing, gathering all the stats, and making some of the graphics you see on my social media about the podcast. I would not be able to create this podcast without this team of talented people. They literally are the magic workers. Thank you, Podfox Media, for all your hard work. Now, I want to leave you with one last thing. Just because the countries that were mentioned in this episode have been analyzed, put in a study, and said to be the safest countries for solo travelers, I still want you to practice your street smarts. Meaning you have to always be alert and aware of your surroundings when you're traveling solo. And you have to stay plugged into your internal compass, your intuition. Your intuition is your number one travel buddy when it comes to traveling by yourself. It will always lead you in the right direction and out of harm's way. So remember to practice listening to that inner guidance of yours now while you're in your own country, city, or town, so you know what it sounds like and feels like when you travel by yourself. Well, that's a wrap. As always, thank you for joining me today. I hope you learned a little, maybe you laughed a little, and my hope is that it gave you some things to think about. Until next time, my dear anxious adventurers, ciao, besos.